Monday morning, everyone. I am David, and I am your chaplain here at Progressive, and this is this week's Monday's Motivation. We're going to talk about wisdom this week, which means we're going to be in the book of Proverbs. Now, Proverbs can be really hard to understand sometimes, but I think we have a good way this morning to help us understand what God wants for us in the way of wisdom. Welcome to our newest building project at our house. This is my wife's new photography studio. My wife is a photographer. She's been one for about 10 years now, a very good photographer. And well, we needed a new studio, and we built this one, or in the process of finishing this one here at our house. And I couldn't think of a better analogy to talk about wisdom than building a house or a pipeline or whatever else you want to build. You see, the idea behind wisdom in the Bible is that it's the ability, or wisdom is the ability to take all the clutter and all the things that are a mess in our life and they're sort of scattered. It's the ability to bring all of those in line and give them order and discipline to head in a singular direction for a desired outcome. Now, in our text today, we are looking at Proverbs 9, and there's two invitations in this particular text from two different people. They're really not people, they're personifications. One is wisdom, and one is folly or arrogance and pride. And one is the way of God, in which He is inviting us to, and the other is the way of the world, the wisdom according to the world. Listen to what Lady Wisdom, or God's way, says that we should do. It says that wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered her beast and has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her young women to call from the highest places in the town. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. To him who lacks sense, she says, come, eat of my bread and drink of the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways and live and walk in the way of insight. And then verse 10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. Now, what this is talking about, when it's talking about that wisdom has built her house, and that she's throwing, is the picture of someone throwing a dinner party. Man, I mean, they've built a house that has 7 pillars, which 7 in the Bible is often a number of completeness, of sufficiency. Nothing is lacking here. And she's throwing this big dinner party. She's slaughtered her beast, probably the roasted lamb, and she's brought out the best wine, and she's set the table with the best china and the best silverware, the good stuff, right? The stuff you haven't seen since your wedding day, that stuff. And she's throwing this dinner party. It's really a picture that in Jesus, because Jesus is the wisdom of God, according to Colossians 1:24, is that in the wisdom of God through Christ, we lack nothing. Every decision that we are faced with in this life can be answered in this book that points us to Jesus. Just like this big dinner table has been laid out before us, and that all we have and all we need is Jesus is sufficient for that. Well, it's contrasted with the next person, the imitation of who we will call Madam Prostitute. She's the Lady Folly, and we see her in verse 13. The woman Folly is loud, she is seductive and knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house. She takes a seat on the highest places of the town, calling to those who pass by, who are going straight on their way. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. And to him who lacks sense, she says, stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he does not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. So in Lady Folly, or Madam Prostitute, as we'll call her, her invitation, she gives, there's no preparation as Lady Wisdom had, as God has in His preparation. She sits on her front porch, watching the people pass by, calling out to them. She's loud, she's brash, she's arrogant, calling out to them, listen to me, listen to my wisdom and what I want to give to you and how you should do life. Well, Lady Wisdom doesn't do that. In her invitation, in her call, Lady Wisdom, or God, is actually going to where the people are. He's going to meet these people. He's not waiting for them to come to him. But here in the woman folly, or the madam prostitute, she is sitting on her front porch, acting like a prostitute, calling out to those who are trying to do the right thing, trying to learn right from wrong, to make the right decisions. And yet she gives the same thing that Lady Wisdom says. She says, whoever is simple, whoever needs wisdom, lacks it, but needs it and wants it, let him turn in here. And to him who lacks sense, she says, stolen water is sweet. This is a sexual idea here, is that, look, affairs and other sexual actions that you think is covered up and nobody's going to know, and that's seductive in a way. And she says, come in here, and bread eaten in secret, get rich quick schemes here. These are seductive as well in our world. How can I benefit? How can I get rich quick here? Those are seductive in our world, the wisdom of our world. But the result of that is in verse 18. But he does not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. You see, in our world, whether it's a building that we're building, whether it's a pipeline, whether it's a anything, any kind of anything that's being built, whether it's digital or physical, we're all tempted to cut corners and to take shortcuts. Why? Well, because that benefits me, whether in money or whether in time or whatever it may be. We become the center of our decision, and we have to learn that we need wisdom in how we structure our lives and how we make these difficult decisions. Because without wisdom, we really don't gain anything. I mean, I could have the builders cut corners all over the place, and the builders hopefully didn't cut any corners out of it, because if you cut too many corners, you're going to weaken the structure of this building, which is going to cause safety concerns. The same thing with the pipeline. If there's so many corners being cut, well, something bad is going to happen, and people are going to get hurt, and it's just going to trickle down from there, right? So we need wisdom on how to make good and godly choices, from things that are spiritual to your jobs, to the difficult situations that you face in your families. All of this, we need to know what God wants us to do, because in that, Lady Wisdom tells us we have life, that we can find life in that. The other decision, or the other invitation that we have from Madam Prostitute, the seductive speech of the world, the wisdom of the world, it only leads to death. It says that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. It only leads to our destruction. So my prayer for you this week is, when you're faced with decisions, whether difficult or not difficult, that we would consult God and what He wants us to do first. Well, I hope you guys have an awesome, safe, and a productive work week.